From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Mark covers yesterday's Choose Iowa announcement from Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Mike Naig. I talk with Madison Rugle of Corteva about Forcivo fungicide, and Dustin visits with Ron Calhoun of Nutrien. Now let's join in with our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Well, Dustin, it is kind of interesting in our office because I live on one side of Des Moines in Waukee. You live on the other side of Des Moines up in Ankeny. And I know just that little bit of difference. We can have different weather sometimes, but at least where I was in Waukee last night, we got some heavy rain for at least a short amount of time and even some little tiny hailstones mixed in there. Did you get some of the same?
Yeah, we got plenty of rain. It started off earlier in the evening, but then it really opened up around 10 o'clock. And yeah, the hail came and it was big, heavy drops of rain. The wind picked up. It was a good old fashioned thunderstorm. It lasted for a couple hours. I know at midnight, it really opened up and started dumping pretty hard there for us. It was just almost a frog strangler the way it was going. But yeah, we did get quite a bit of rain shower activity. Picked up a little under an inch the way it looks. We're about 79 hundredths is what we ended up getting in Ankeny over last night, which is still definitely welcomed in the area. 3/4 of an inch of rain will go a long way. Yeah, it keeps you from getting anhydrous put on today, but the same token is we need that. The dry conditions, we've been talking about that. It should shape up if things continue to be a fast planting season, but we'd rather go ahead and get a little moisture in the ground. Yes, I know we could like to get the crop going, but we're still a little early yet. We could hold off another week or so, and it looks like that's what we're going to be getting this week is a lot of rain shower activity. Looked at the National Weather Service website, and they're talking rain all the way through tomorrow, all the way through into Friday and Saturday even. And so definitely it's going to be some rain shower activity. Hopefully it comes down slow. It's not anything that gully washers or anything like that, but hopefully we can get some moisture out of that, give that crop something really good to set into, and that'll give it all the power it needs. We've seen that so many years in a row where things have dried off in the summer, but the rains in the spring have done so much to get it to a good place.
And you would think this timing is actually probably pretty beneficial just before things really get rolling enough to get some of that moisture back into the ground. And especially with these temperatures rising, helping to soak into that soil a little bit, hopefully going to help out farmers in the long run as they get ready to plant in earnest. And I wanted to mention as well, yesterday, Dustin had the chance to visit Slater, Iowa, Main Street in Slater, went to the future site of Home Needs. That's Needs with a K. It is going to be a bakery in Slater. And that was part of the Choose Iowa Grant Award ceremony where they announced the 30 grant awardees. And it was a good time for all of the media that was there and all of the future grant recipients. A lot of them were there in attendance and to hear their plans for what they're going to do with that grant money.
All right. Well, looking forward to hearing that coming up later on in the program. But right now, we're going to hear you talk with Joe Camp of Comstock to get us going with what's happening in grains.
Joined today by Joe Camp of Comstock for the opening market discussion. Joe, it's a big day today with the Prospective Plantings Report. What's happening with the trade in the grains?
Grains are definitely waiting on that report, the Prospective Planting Survey, along with the quarterly grain stocks update. The plantings numbers get a lot of hype because that's so interesting as we head into the new season, and it's our first look at what the intended area could be. Expectations are that we will have some corn acres shift to soybeans this season, in part after having a modern record for corn acres last year, 98.8 million. The consensus is somewhere between 3 and 5 million acres will shift to soybeans, but it's important what end of that range you're on, and it determines, at least starting out for the balance sheet, do we come into the new season with a carryout projected above or below 2 billion bushels for corn. For soybeans, similar questions. How many of those acres get planted now to soybeans after having a lower seedings year last year? And that being impactful for whether or not the carryout is going to rise or fall from this year at 350 million bushels. Also playing into that would be any possible adjustments going forward for beginning stocks, and that brings into play last year and the old crop stocks, which that report will tell us about, not only what's left over, but where it's positioned, whether on farm or off farm, and that then giving us some color on what farmers might still have yet to sell. The idea being that there's quite a bit of old crop corn left, but relatively tighter on leftover inventories for soybeans. So we do see a relatively quiet split trade in the lead up to these big reports coming later.
When you talk about the prospective plantings report, and as you mentioned, acres switching from corn to beans, now obviously a lot of that is going to be rotation, but there's also the theory, and it makes a lot of sense, that that would happen because of the fertilizer situation. But at the same time, Joe, since this is survey-based, couldn't it also be a situation where, as those surveys are trickling in throughout this time period, gathering the information, that we didn't have the full picture of what was happening with the conflict in the Middle East and seeing those prices climb all the way to the levels that they're at right now? Could that change things a little bit and then maybe make those numbers a little bit different than we might expect?
Absolutely. That's a big component of this report. And it always is. Last year, mind you, such a surprise, an unprecedented hike eventually for corn acres. You have this year what you mentioned first, the rotational factor, where you have a lot of corn on corn even, that would naturally shift over to soybeans. But for now, the one price differential and soybeans still having a relative lead over corn in their performance from the last year, from the last planting season, and then the cost of production with fertilizer having risen. In part, those decisions being made at the margin, depending on weather as usual, so that will still factor in going forward and can change things, and likely did last year in a big way. But then too, for the fertilizer costs in corn and these decisions that could change after the survey was taken, which was these first 2 weeks of March, only just beginning to get into the war with Iran and seeing the impact on fertilizer costs. So a lot can change from here, but at least it's a start, a benchmark for how to go forward.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Well, as nitrogen is getting put on in different parts of the state, how are we going to make that return on investment back on the higher costs that we're seeing for some of these products? We're going to talk with Ron Calhoun of Nutrien and some of the products they're saying can help boost some of the effects of the nitrogen that you're applying right now. We'll have more after this.
This is Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and one of the big discussions in agriculture right now is surrounding fertilizer and those nitrogen sources. Dustin Huffman, joined by Ron Calhoun of Nutrien to discuss just that. You're listening to the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
We're with Ron Calhoun, and we'll be talking nitrogen today. Ron, thanks so much for taking the time to visit.
Yeah, glad to visit with you.
All right, so talk to us about what you're talking to farmers about here with nitrogen and everything they need to be thinking about, especially when you're up against a year where margins are tight.
Yeah, so in a year where everyone is evaluating all the things that go into their program, right, we're wanting to make sure that every dollar that's spent is one that's giving them a return. And one of those big areas of investment in your crop program is in nitrogen. And so we have a product, Infinity, which is a product that has 3 modes of action to help supplement your nitrogen program to both fix, recruit, and liberate nitrogen out of that soil system.
All right, so tell us how it works.
Yeah, so fix, what we mean by that is we're actually using a true biological, a live bacteria that can fix atmospheric nitrogen and make that plant available. And then recruit is a consortium of live bacteria that is recruiting those bacteria that are already resident in that bacteria. Tell them it's time to get going, time to get after work. And then a biochemistry or biocatalyst component that can help liberate those organic soil pools of nitrogen. So 3 ways that we can get some supplemental nitrogen into your program and make every acre a little bit more productive.
So then tell us how that gets applied and when that gets applied.
Yeah, the primary way that gets applied would be with your in-furrow nutrition. So if you have a liquid system, right, and you're putting something right down in the furrow, that would be a great place that could go. But we also see it getting used like in a 2x2 right alongside there. Those are the ways that gets applied most often, mixed with your fertilizer that you're putting down already.
So obviously getting those crops off to a good start is very important. But then you look middle of the year, what does that do to help keep them sustained?
Yeah, so we look at it as getting things off to a great start, and certainly the live bacteria that's in there, looking to have that naturalized for a period of time so that can be helping out throughout that season. If you get rain events, you get other things, ways to kind of protect that nitrogen investment and keep your nitrogen trickling into that system so that you're not missing any days. We only have 100 days to grow a 100-day crop.
All right. So then talk about some of the results you're seeing from some of these products.
Yeah, it's been really exciting where we see growers that have already made an effort to try to get more efficiency out of their nitrogen program, where they're already using some technologies to kind of push those boundaries and go from 1.2 to 1.1 to 1 to 0.9, and then partnering that in there to where they can now have increased nitrogen use efficiency across the whole acre.
So quick question then, we talk about mid-season, we get a little bit of rain events like we did in central Iowa. There were some farmers who were thinking about having to redo nitrogen. How does that help does it help stabilize it in case? I mean, obviously Mother Nature's going to throw you curveballs you're not always ready for, but is that going to help stabilize it a little bit better until you can get in with the second pass if you have to?
Yeah, I think stabilizing that unstable acre is one of the great ways that this can partner alongside with some of those unpredictable events, right? So you get that the 2-inch rain on Father's Day, and you're like, okay, how do I go after that? And this is something that's going to continue to serve you until you can come alongside that and maybe supplement that to get you through the rest of the season.
So anything else that our Iowa producers really need to be thinking about here as they look at that nitrogen as they're getting ready to apply? Because like you said, obviously we're in a tough situation. Every dollar's got to count.
Yeah, I think that getting with your trusted crop advisor so you can sit down and you can talk about all the things that go into your program, and you can make sure that every dollar you're spending is giving you what you need to reach your goals so that we can do it again next year.
All right, so folks want to start looking at some of the products you have and some of the ways they can incorporate that and kind of take a look if that works for their farm. What's the best way to get that conversation started?
Yeah, our portfolio is kind of big.
Yep.
So if you can get with your local Nutrien crop consultant, they're going to be able to dial it down to talk about the sorts of products that your neighbors are having success with and what things are going to be most meaningful on your farm. And if you want to go and dig into this a little bit on your own, you could go to lovelandproducts.com and you could read through about some of the information on these technologies and how you can bring those to bear.
All right, Ron Calhoun's been our guest here from Nutrien.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Coming up next here on Iowa Ag Matters, Dustin Huffman will have the basis report for you, the latest prices from around the state. You're listening to the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
It's time now to run down the basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Tuesday. I'm Dustin Huffman. Not seeing much change at all in what the elevators are pricing today. Only a couple made any moves. Let's take a look at where they're at. ADM Burlington, 20 cents under on corn, $4.34. Soybeans, 45 cents under, $11.16. Cargill Eddyville, 21 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.33. New Co-op Algona, 45 cents under on corn, $4.09. Soybeans, 77 cents under at $10.84 for the cash price. Ag State Sheldon, 30 cents under on corn, $4.24. Soybeans, 81 cents under at $10.80. At Ag State Elta, they're 42 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.12. Soybeans, 76 cents under at $10.85. Cargill Cedar Rapids, 15 cents under on corn, $4.39. Soybeans, 25 cents under at $11.36. At 5-Star Co-op Nashua, $4.22 is the corn bid. That's 32 cents under. Soybeans, 66 cents under at $10.95. At Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, they're 28 cents under on corn, $4.26 for the cash bid. ADM Des Moines, 40 cents under on soybeans. Cash price there, $11.21. New Co-op Red Oak, 35 cents under on corn, $4.19. Soybeans, 73 cents under, $10.88. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain, 48 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.06. Soybeans, 85 cents under at $10.76. New Co-op Sheraton, 37 cents under on corn, $4.17. Soybeans, 73 cents under, cash bid $10.88. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 43 cents under on corn, $4.11. Soybeans, 70 cents under at $10.91. New Co-op Glidden, 44 cents under on corn, $4.10 for the cash bid. Soybeans, 75 cents under at $10.86. Innovative Ag Services Farley, 45 cents under on corn, $4.09. Soybeans, 74 cents under at $10.87. Cargill Muscatine, 22 cents under on corn, $4.32. Soybeans, 52 cents under at $11.09, and they are being closed Friday for the Good Friday holiday. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a rundown of your cash corn and soybean bids here on Iowa Ag Matters. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
We got more market information yet to come here on Iowa Ag Matters, including a complete rundown of the midday numbers as well as full livestock analysis coming your way as well. You can find full replays of this Iowa Ag Matters program if there are parts you missed under the podcast tab at iowaagnet.com. Stay with us. We'll be back. This is the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Well, yesterday, as Mark Magnuson was talking about, he was up in Slater as the Choose Iowa grants were announced for 30 of those organizations. And Secretary Mike Naig was there, and Mark Magnuson has more from that event over there in Slater.
Iowans tell us consistently that they want more local products, and today's announcement will help make that happen. Choose Iowa continues to see tremendous, strong momentum. This is Iowa's signature brand for Iowa-grown, Iowa-made, and Iowa-raised food, beverage, and ag products. We have over 340 members today, and we sort of say that on a daily basis, that number is literally changing. So today, it is 340 statewide members in 90 counties. And believe you me, the team is working to ensure that 99 counties are represented. But what great growth in just over 2.5 years since the launch of Choose Iowa. Choose Iowa is primarily a branded and marketing program. And I definitely love to see more and more of our members using that Choose Iowa logo that you're going to see on packages and menus and some great potato bags in particular, I know, but and others. But we love seeing that. And of course, it gives that close association with value and with quality and with fresh and nutritious. Choose Iowa also has grant programs within the umbrella. Value-added projects, dairy innovation, and butchery innovation. I actually had a chance to visit a dairy farm last week that had been qualified or had been a recipient of one of the dairy innovation grants as well. So those are the 3 grant offerings. Additionally, we do have some food purchasing programs that connects farmers with food banks and farmers with schools. Again, local, fresh, healthy, nutritious. These are great things to be able to connect. The value-added grant is flexible by design, allows applicants to diversify their product offerings, process and sell more of what they produce on site, and access new markets. Emphasis on expand. We want to grow. We want more. And so that's how the team scores these grants. Today's grant recipients include Iowa farmers, small businesses, and organizations. You're going to hear from a few of those folks shortly. Nina Harris with Home Needs, Jeff Hafner with That Iowa Girl and Early Morning Harvest in Panora, Jody Barrett, Rooster Ranch in Knoxville, Jordan Lyon, Boozer's Produce in Conesville, and Adam with Kittleson Brothers in St. Ansgar. So these projects are from all over the state. I think you're going to see big and small communities represented: Ames, Cedar Rapids, Clarion, Davenport, I won't read them all, Decorah, Fort Dodge, Hampton, Knoxville, Lone Tree, Marengo, Newton, Panora, Riverside, Slater, St. Ansgar, Waukon, just to name a few. And these projects were eligible for up to $25,000 in cost share funding, and $500,000 was made available in total by the legislature, leveraging the total recipient investment of $1.71 million across these 30 projects. So a great return on an investment, I would say. There's high demand for these grant dollars. We received 130 grant applications. That means, unfortunately, we weren't able to fund 100. We can fund the very, very best, but it also tells us that there's some great projects that aren't getting funded. There's just that much demand. Total funding requested was $2.27 million. So the demand exceeded the availability of funds by 4x. What kinds of projects were funded? So again, a diversity in the range of projects: commercial kitchen equipment, which I think you're going to hear about, honey extraction and processing, cider and winery production equipment, lots of refrigerated trucks and cold storage, on-farm retail spaces and farm stores. We love this, by the way. We're getting more and more farm experiences. I like to say, get out on a gravel road, get your car dusty, go shop, and go shop at multiple places, but get a farm experience along the way. And so again, whether it's on a main street or whether it's on a farm in a restored barn, those types of things, there's all kinds of opportunities to find more Iowa-grown, made, and raised products. Farmers market infrastructure, specialized processing equipment, and much, much more. There's lots of creativity and innovation. We see entrepreneurship is alive and well in this space. Several projects were really focused on enhanced aggregation and distribution of local foods, and we hear that as being a real challenge. Moving product across the state can be costly and a challenge for our members. Strengthens the connection between producers and restaurants, wholesalers, retailers, and consumers. Since the value-added grant program was started in 2022, the state has invested a total of $2.14 million in 130 projects across the state. And that has returned a total investment of $7.3 million. So again, a great return on these cost share dollars, these grant dollars. And we know that then there's economic activity that comes as a result of those things. So Choose Iowa is definitely making a positive difference when it comes to building markets for Iowa products.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Well, as we heard from Secretary Naig here on the show, the situation with the grant recipients for the 30 Choose Iowa grants, interesting to hear that selection process, how the committee decides where that grant money is heading and the impact that it will have on the state of Iowa and making those products available to Iowans. Dustin, I know 4-inch soil temperatures top of mind right now. What are we looking at here today?
Well, even with the rain, the temperatures are looking really good. In fact, probably even helped improve things. The lowest we're seeing anywhere right now is about 52 up in the north central, northeastern part of the state, not too far away. But we're seeing low to mid 60s across the southern, I would say, half of the state, maybe just a few upper 50s in the east central quadrant and the extreme west central quadrant, again around that Sioux City area as well, but over to the Quad Cities. But otherwise, the central part of the state around Polk County and down into the southern third of the state in that low to mid 60s range. So definitely what we're wanting to see now. Of course, the rain does slow things down, but the temperatures are right where we want them. More Iowa Ag Matters in a moment.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Well, coming up next here on Iowa Ag Matters, we're going to find out what's going on in those midday markets. Soybeans started off the overnight pretty strong, but opening a call, they seem to be going lower here throughout the morning. Corn as well. Mark Magnuson has more of that coming up here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson, joined in midday by John Heinberg of Total Farm Marketing. John, what have we learned with the prospective plantings reports and the grain stocks numbers?
Well, we got those numbers out here just a few minutes ago. Numbers came in a little bit off of expectations, but not much. First off, we saw that corn number come in at 95.33 million acres. So again, that's up a little bit from what the trade was thinking. They're thinking just under 94.3, acres in that regard. So that's been kind of keeping corn prices. We're off the lows of the day, but we're flat right now. We'll see how that comes out. On the soybean side, acres were slightly less than the market anticipated, about 750,000 acres. Came in at 84.7 million acres. Again, the market was thinking it was going to be around the 85.5 number. So with that, that's been a little supportive. New crop beans are up 15 cents right now. Front end beans are up about a dime. Now, grain stocks numbers, which is kind of maybe the sleeper number of the day. Corn was a little light, just over 9 billion bushels. The market was thinking about 9.1. So not a real extreme number in that regard. Then on the soybean side, kind of in line with expectations, 2.1 billion bushels of soybean stock still in hand. That number is, usually pretty well calculated due to the fact that we know crush, we know the export number. Corn does have that little sleeper number of feed usage in there, so that kind of, messes up the estimates a little bit because we don't know how the USDA is going to handle that at this time frame. So with that, the market did go a little bit negative. Now we're starting to see a little bit of buying power here at the 11:07 time frame, being led by beans who kind of like those numbers and maybe just some money flow wanting to get back into the soybean market.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Cattle markets had a fairly firm day again, just still consolidating within yesterday's top of that range from yesterday. So, but technically the charts are improved. If we can get some gas here, kick it through yesterday's high, it wouldn't shock me that you see maybe this market want to put a little more value into it. I think we're going to probably chop here right now, see what cash trade comes to here in the next couple of days in that regard. We'll see what the retail values are today. We did see those choice carcasses starting to firm back up again.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Sure, love to talk with them anytime. Give me a call, 800-334-9779, or shoot me an email at john.heinberg@totalfarmmarketing.com. And don't forget the website, totalfarmmarketing.com.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
May corn up 1 3/4 at $4.57.5. May soybeans up 12.5 at $11.72 1/4. May soybean meal up $1.50 at $3.1640. May soybean oil up 40 cents at $68.87. On the Merc, April live cattle up $1.40 at $240.95. April feeder cattle up $2.88 at $366.18. April lean hogs down 5 cents at $90.43. April pork cutout unchanged at $98.90. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we're heading right back into the marketplace to talk about what's happening with the cattle and the hogs. Joe Camp of Comstock Investments rejoining the market conversation with Mark Magnuson as they talk about the livestock markets here on a Tuesday.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
We see a good charge back forward for cattle futures. It was a technical achievement here to start out the week that we broke above highs from February and many of these contracts. We were up there closing some gaps in various places, and now wondering about follow through to then test the all-time highs from last fall. Those are back in play here rather quickly. The run-up in March has in part defied stock market weakness. That has been a problem at times, but ultimately shrugging off these worries about the economy for now and feeling like it's still a matter of tight fundamentals, short supplies, but yet still robust demand as we head into the spring season that helps cattle higher. And that spillover support we're seeing as well for the hogs right now.
What should we be watching in the reports today as it relates to the livestock side? What would make a difference to the livestock side of the markets?
Well, one thing you can see about is the disappearance of corn and the implications for corn feed use over these last several months. In part, we would think that it could be down, and that is as an aside, a possible subject for future changes on the corn balance sheet, that we would adjust that feed and residual. Now, the impact of corn feed is going to be important because of how we've been sending so much corn outside of the country, particularly to Mexico, to feed those cattle down in Mexico while the border's closed. So that can tell us something about feed usage and about the overall feed demand for the cattle sector. And that's topical for sure this week because, again, we're starting to hear some rumblings about plans to possibly reopen that border with Mexico, of course, still closed because of the screwworm threat for now.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Our contact info is up at comstock.com, so we'd be glad to hear from anyone.
Joe Camp of Comstock, my guest here today. Thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Happy report day. Thanks, Mark.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices. Trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and with some wet conditions outside after the rain yesterday, at least here in central Iowa, has me thinking a little bit about fungicide. And Riley Smith going to talk about Forcivo fungicide with the team at Corteva. That's coming up next. You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. This is Iowa Ag Matters, and it is time now for Riley Smith's conversation with the team at Corteva, learning all about Forcivo fungicide. Here's Riley with more.
Visiting with Madison Rugle of, would you be Corteva side?
That's
okay,
right,
I'm going to start that over to make sure. I always try to make sure I have that. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Riley Smith, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, here at Commodity Classic 2026 in San Antonio, Texas, visiting with Madison Rugle of Corteva. And there's a lot of great information to be discussed this year at Commodity Classic. Many new developments. Talking Forcivo fungicide today, and there's been a lot of development there. And of course, from last year, we saw there's a lot of things to handle this year. So first off, when we talk about Forcivo, what are some of the things that you're really pinpointing to go after?
Yeah, I'll just say for me, Riley, Forcivo is built on 3 powerful modes of action. The first being really that novel SDHI we like to call out, which gives us long-lasting residual. We say up to 30 days. That 30 days gives us really good control on southern rust, especially after the season we just saw, right? Tar spot, which we know we're going to see at some point coming back to the mix, depending on the weather, but even gray and northern as well. And so being able to protect that plant is critical, and we're really excited to launch Forcivo. And really 26 is the first application season in commercial sales, so we're excited.
So then when we talk about those multiple modes of action, it's so important because we've seen resistance levels increase in really, I mean, everything where we're talking weeds, we're talking fungus issues, like there's so many different things that are changing every year. So to have those multiple modes of action feels really comprehensive to go after those problems.
Yeah, and what I like most being the leader of our fungicide portfolio here at Corteva is we have Approach Primo, which we've had for so long. It's a great dependable product. Forcivo brings a entirely new set of AIs. So if you're thinking about changing it up, multiple modes of action, changing up your AIs, it's a great option for us to really feed in that to our programs to ensure that we don't have that resistance issues in the future.
And we talked about just a little bit ago of the timing of these applications. It's finding out that that's becoming more and more critical to making sure that not only are these being applied correctly, but they're being applied at the time when the crop needs it the most. And I'm sure with Forcivo, that's become a really big part of that program.
Yeah, it is. And I think this past year we all faced the conversation around, okay, that first application, when do we do that, right? And then it even got into the conversation, okay, we've got so much disease pressure out here. What's the second application and what does that look like? And so for us, it's ensuring we follow with a strong Forcivo fungicide up front. And if we get into a case, which let's hope not for our farmers, right? But we don't get in case that we had last year. But if we do, right, you have Approach Prima to come back on that back end to really help in that 2-pass system. So that's what it gets me excited with those growers who are really trying to strategically place their products and understand and have good efficacy. We've got 2 products that can do and support both.
Right, because when it comes to those diseases that we've seen and the fungal issues, that it's not just treating that. You want to get ahead of it to where it's not even out there in the first place. And like you mentioned, when we saw last year, especially with Southern Rust, that's in there, it hits fast. So being ahead of that is the number one step to preventing it.
Yeah, and even in some areas too, we've seen disease come on super late. Like then you try to balance around, do I spray, do I not spray? You know, what does that ROI look like for the customers? Which is why I always say that let's go strong with Forcivo, right? Really protect that crop, get that 30 days residual. And then if we have to have the conversation with, your agronomist or your local retailer, right? You start talking about what's the right product. And for me, Approach Prima is a great option because it's got a cost effective for our customers that, hey, if we got to have that second pass, it's there to protect on that back end.
And then, speaking of like second pass, when that would be used, is there quite a bit of flexibility in Forcivo and just kind of that application window?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the standard of all the 3 modes of action fungicides out there. So we do have a wide range. Like we like to say, we never know when to apply because the season's always different, but it's a flexible product that can be sprayed when you need it at most critical times.
All right, lots of great information today, Madison. For anyone who would like to learn more about Forcivo or anything else on the Corteva lineup, how can they do that?
Yeah, I think the easiest one, if you're sitting at home, corteva.us/force will give you an update on Forcivo. But I'd really encourage everyone to really work with their local retailers or where they get their crop protection products and ask the question, hey, tell me more about Forcivo and learn more with their local reps.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Well, that's going to bring us to the end of today's show here on Iowa Ag Matters. Of course, the reports are out, and we are going to see how the markets react over the next couple of days to that planting intentions report. And going again, that'll all be revised again in June when we see what acres were actually planted, because between now and then, you never know what Mother Nature's going to throw at us. Thanks to Mark, thanks to Riley, and of course, thanks to you for listening. We'll see you again tomorrow on Iowa Ag Matters.